Hey, good people. Sammy Ash here, Executive Director of the Ash Academy, and your host of our Inspire, Uplift, Engage podcast. Before we head right into the show, we've got a few announcements. We have a career assessment, research, resume, and cover letter workshop, better known as our Career Arc workshop, kicking off November 1st. Anyone looking to start the process for their career development, or if you'd like to explore some changes to your current job hunting materials for 2021, join us on Sundays in November for this 4-week intensive workshop. Also, November 21st, we've got our second annual The Farm to Table event with our co hosts and partners, The Farm, where we're raising funds for two local charities, the Food Share of Ventura County and Tender Life Maternity Home. This will be a virtual experience where we're discussing the importance of yoga and meditation, especially this year, with friend of the foundation, Keyshawn Rains, and we're going to do a mental health check-in with our board VP, Camille Black. Plus, we'll have some yoga classes throughout the event. I told you we weren't done with this year yet, so we'll drop the save the date details in the description box, and more details are to come. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Ash Academy's Inspire, Uplift, Engage podcast. I am Sammy Ash, the Executive Director of the Ash Academy, and your host. Today, we are discussing women of color in the film and television industry, entertainment at large. Happy that everybody is here to join us. We've got some friends of the foundation in the crowd, too. So let's get started with these intros. So first we have Victoria Page, who is a television and film editor. Welcome. Then we have Jordana David, who is a friend of the foundation. You might be familiar with her from our February event before Outside was closed down, our very first live event. She was there on that arts panel. She is a makeup artist, beauty expert, and also a podcast host. Welcome. Then we have Lilian Manansala, who is an actor, dancer, choreographer, and is also getting her master's in journalism. So welcome. Then we have friend of the foundation, Naeema Jamilah Torres, who's just an award-winning documentary filmmaker, storyteller. She's part of Leadership of Mescla, a collective of women and non-binary filmmakers of color in Chicago. She will also be showcasing some of her work during our Mentors and Mimosas Gala. So welcome back. And then we have Stacey Evans Morgan, who is also a friend of the foundation. She was featured in our arts panel as well back in February. She is an entertainment industry veteran with television as a television writer. She's got producer credits from some of our favorite shows, The Parkers, One on One, Jamie Foxx Show. Just the list goes on. We are incredibly inspired by all of that work. So welcome back and thank you so much for joining us. So you're probably wondering, okay, where are we going with this? So I really would just like to get everyone's perspectives on kind of what drove them to go into the entertainment industry. Kind of for anyone, it's not the easiest industry to be in, but just being in the segment of being a Black person or a woman of color at large, I know things are different. So I just want to hear from everyone, kind of what was it like breaking into the industry? And anyone can hop in.
For me, I started off, I had aspirations to become a broadcast journalist. I wanted to take over on the Today Show. That was my original plan of action. But somehow that just shifted for me. I think it was just the allure of media. And this is back in the old days, back in the 80s. And I did the Monday night news at USC when I was an undergrad there. And I had an epiphany then. I was like, this is not what I want to do. I don't want to report the news. I realized that it was just like I said, it was the attraction of just media and being able to reach people from all over the world. So just started vigorously doing internships and things of that sort. And after college, landed a job at Paramount Studios in casting. I was the low woman on the totem pole, an assistant to an assistant, but I didn't care because it got me in the gate. And as James Brown says, open up the door. I don't need nobody giving me nothing. Open up the door. I'll get it myself. And that's how I felt. Let me just get inside and I'll figure it out. And so for me, like I said, it's been a 30-year journey in this business. Just kind of always wanted to write. I knew I always wanted to write, but back then you didn't see a lot of Black female writers. You didn't see a lot of Black writers, period, on TV shows, even shows that starred us. So that's changed, thank God now, but back then you didn't see that. So I really didn't know that was a career that I wanted to pursue immediately. But after a lot of different opportunities working in the business, I worked in music. I worked for Motown for 9 months. Scratch that off the list. Definitely did not want to work in music, but working on different productions and things of that sort. It was when I landed a job working, and let me back up real quick. I had worked at KCAL Channel 9 and had gotten an Emmy nomination for a project that I had co-produced and things of that sort, but I really wanted to write. That was like more on the magazine type shows, things of that sort. And I ended up landing a job with Yvette Lee Bowser during the first season of her pilot called My Girls, which actually turned into Living Single. And kind of working with a woman, a sister my age, same kind of experience, for friends and everything like that, just kind of reiterated that, yeah, I can do this too. And so that kind of opened up the windows for me to, just decide that that's the career path that I wanted to take. And I'm not going to go overall my journey, but that was kind of how I got there, that I wanted to write. I had written a play before, so I knew that I had this love for seeing words go from the page to the stage. So we can talk a little bit more down in the podcast, but that was my entree into the entertainment industry.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Just casually mentioning our favorite shows, just go, yeah, thank you.
Now I've been blessed, seriously. Living Single, and then the Parkers and Jamie. I've been blessed, so yeah.
Who wants to hop in? Go for it.
I've been binging Living Single ever since quarantine on Hulu. So
for that, thank God for, oh my God, it's still timeless, and Girlfriends is now on, and the Parkers October 1st, shameless plug, starts. So you get ready to get your laughter on. I wrote 10 episodes of that. I went from staff writer to producer in 5 seasons. And so that starts on October 1st. So we're really happy about that. So, I'm glad. Black women are the new Black. So I'm glad they're recognizing it.
That's on the corner. I'll tune that in. I'll tune in for that October 1st. How I got into entertainment business. It started in college, really. I declared my major sophomore year of college. Back then they called it electronic media. Now they're calling it digital innovation of film and TV, fancy. But I bought a camera off of eBay, and I'm like, I am going to just tape my friends, and I made I edited this memoir video, like, oh, here's our sophomore year, and here's everything that happened. And I enjoyed the process of putting it together. I feel like I'm driven with music. So just having sex, like one of my friends went to sorority of AKA, and then, some of my friends did gospel choir. And so I compiled that all together, and it made, like, in my opinion, this masterful piece where I'm like, I think I want to do editing. And so with my major, I feel like a lot of film schools and majors of that focus on screenwriting, producing, directing. And obviously it's great to know all those things, but they really didn't focus on post-production. It was through student challenges where, obviously we know the steps of making a film, doing the news. It was during student challenges, like those 48-hour challenges, where I really was driven very creatively. And granted, student films, I say, they were okay from what I did back then. But that was more of my decision of, I think I want to go into post-production. And upon graduating, I went to Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio, even though I'm from New Orleans. It's the one in Cincinnati. And my mother was saying, like, so where are we doing grad school? Where are you going? And I'm like, okay, I need to devise a plan, because obviously she's like, you ain't coming back here. So I decided to move to Los Angeles straight out of college. And I realized that I didn't know the software that well. I mean, granted, because my major, I knew the basics, and I needed to know more of aesthetic and cutting techniques. And I felt that a film school wouldn't deliver that to me. So I found the school is actually no longer here, but it was called Video Symphony Post-Production Institute in Burbank, California, where it was more like a trade school, where professionals really would go there and learn more about Avid, After Effects, Final Cut, Premiere, because technology is ever changing, ever evolving. So they're learning new tools and things like that. So I was there for 11 months. That was their program. And during that time, I interned with digital media companies, a media company called Black Tree Media, which is still around, that got me into the press junkets, the red carpets, opening my eyes to other avenues other than film, other than TV. And then once finishing that program, I knew I wanted to get into scripted TV. And I'm like, okay, how can I get there? And so I immediately went into assistant editing, reality TV, night assistant. And, I got my hours for the union, because in order to work scripted TV and post-production, you have to be a part of the Motion Pictures Editors Guild. And once I got my union hours, I went straight, paid my dues, worked hard, networked, eventually got a scripted gig like 2 years after being on reality TV. And my first scripted gig was as an assistant editor. I was coming in on a studio cut, which is not of the ordinary. Usually an assistant would start at the beginning of production for their episode and of the series. But under circumstances, I came in the middle of a studio cut of this show called Reckless for CBS season 1. It was a mid-season show, court procedural, didn't last that long, but I was feeling like Mary Tyler Moore, like, I made it. And so that began the trajectory of me going through scripted TV, eventually basically dipping a toe in the features I've done too. And now I've been editing independently throughout 10 years I've been in LA. I'm heavily involved in Film Independent. I was a part of their fellowship, so I'm like Film Independent all the way, also Sundance. But now I've been promoted professionally to edit for Stars for Hightown this coming season. So I'm excited about that. Thank you, lady. But yeah, that was my trajectory of getting into post-production. I knew it since college. I just needed to decide a plan to get there. So yeah.
Thank you. We are definitely inspired by you as well, because although you didn't name drop, you got some notables on your resume too. So yeah, we won't throw them out for you, but I'm just gonna
name drop a little bit if you want me to go there. So as I mentioned, I've been in scripted TV, primarily dramas. I've worked with Gina Prince Bythewood on our first television show, Shots Fired, along with her editor, Terry Shropshire, who I love and adore. loves basketball, Loving Basketball, Secret Life of Bees, Beyond the Lights, all those things. The Old Guard for Netflix, which is new, love it. And I worked with Ava DuVernay on Wrinkle in Time. That was my first feature. And to that being my first feature, to be a big budget, right? So that was definitely an experience of working with, yes, for the people like Ava and Oprah and everyone, it was definitely an experience that I cherish. I mean, I was on there for like a year and a half, which features are definitely longer gigs. On television, it's like 6 to 9 months for post. So yeah, that was definitely an experience. And then I went on to a little, I want to say a little indie film, but I went on to work with John Ridley for a short time as well for an independent film too. So it was good. It was good.
See, this is why we got to pull you into to name drop. We appreciate it. Who's next? Who's gonna hop in?
I'll go. First of all, y'all are making me feel a little like maybe I haven't gotten there, but no, I mean, and obviously I think I'm pretty awesome, but just acknowledging the really great stuff, and I'm a fan of a lot of the shows that are brought up in movies. So yeah, so I actually approached film more like an art form before a career initially. So I started, I always was writing from when I was a child. I was always into storytelling. I used to perform, poetry. I used to perform in poetry slams. I entered writing contests. I was writing like screenplays. Like I just like to write. I just like to storytell or tell stories. And then at some point when I was a teenager, I went into this video production program at this arts organization in Harlem. And I was like, oh, right, my stories can be movies. I forgot about that. So I decided to just like experiment with doing, movies for screen or stories for screen. And then I realized also, oh, I could go to school for this. So I didn't really have like a set direction in terms of like what I wanted to end up being. I knew that I liked directing. I knew that I liked creating things, but I didn't know what that looked like. So one of the things that I started doing was just kind of like as a teenager looking into other opportunities and like what filmmakers do. And one of my instructors actually worked on the set of Sex and the City at the time. And so he gave us like a tour one time, like on a Saturday in their studios, because it's in New York. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like there's a whole ecosystem here and people get jobs, like it started dawning on me that, yeah, this can be a career. So maybe when I was 17, I became a Tribeca Film Fellow, which I think they were just starting up the program. I think I was like the first or second class or first or second like cohort for that. And I got into the world of documentary and like, learning about festival programming. I mean, it was so much, it was just like a lot to digest. But at that point, I had also decided I was going to go to school for film. And I went to undergrad at CUNY City College in New York for their BFA program for film and video. And there is when I continued to write. But interestingly enough, I kind of felt like I didn't have the opportunity to really explore too much because I was now focused on getting jobs, because what everyone wants you to do with an arts degree is, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to work? And I was kind of on my own. Like I didn't have like parental support or anything. So I was thinking like, okay, what do I have to do to like make sure I have a job, but can still like enjoy filmmaking as an art form? And so I went into home entertainment distribution. I kind of fell into that. I think I answered like a Craigslist post for an intern at this really small independent home entertainment company, also in New York. I started working there my junior year of college, and now I learned how the business of filmmaking. And I stayed within, I was an intern there first, and I ended up getting hired full time. And then I ended up working at HBO for a little while. So I was like really in home entertainment distribution for about 7 or 8 years. And I was still trying to help with other projects on the side, still writing. But at some point, I just became dissatisfied because I was like, I'm not like I want to be back in it, like as an art form. Like, this is what I want to do full time. Distribution was very helpful to understand audience, marketing, operations. Like, I did all of that, sales. I had an understanding of that, and I also didn't like it. Like, I was like, this isn't really for me. Like, this kind of corporate environment is not as creative as I would want. So I abruptly quit my job at HBO and moved to Ohio. Um, just to like, well,
The reactions.
well, you know, there was a number of factors that the reason why I was Ohio specifically, but that's where I ended up. And I had a baby while I was in Ohio. And when my baby was 3 months old, I was like, I want to do something like else. Like, what am I going to do? Because I was taking the time to, like, as a transitional period of like, what do I want to do? How do I get to where I want to go? And I decided I'm going to go to grad school so I can get my confidence back, you know, be back in the creative circles. It's a very expensive decision, but that was the decision I wanted to make. So I applied to a program at Northwestern University, the documentary media program. And I've always loved documentary. You know, I wasn't the Ken Burns kind of documentary filmmaker, but I like the stories that documentary can tell about ordinary circumstances, ordinary people. And that's the same kind of approach I took with narrative in general, just like ordinary circumstances, and looking for, you know, something interesting to connect with people. So I went into grad school, had a very interesting experience. But what it did for me was connect me to a community. So I'm still out here in the Chicago area, really involved with filmmaking. And so I did a film. I've done a few films, but the one that, you know, is award winning, as Sammy mentioned in my bio, is currently on the festival circuit, and it's been picking up some awards. And for me, I was like, I did it in grad school because it was where I could take the biggest risk. There, you know, if it didn't work out, it doesn't matter because it's just school, but it ended up working out. So I did like a bunch of interesting things, in my opinion, with that, just because I wanted to see what I could get away with as a filmmaker. But again, I approached it as an art form. I do want it to sustain me in some kind of way. So I do, you know, I teach, I work as an impact producer for documentary. I also still work as a producer for different projects. I'm, you know, developing a number of projects right now. I've tried to enter, I've just been applying to different fellowships, just recognizing that I need to stay in that world of like connecting with artists. So making films for art's sake, and then also trying to make a living at the same time. So for a while I was really directionless, and I feel just like exploring. And now I'm at a place where I know where I want to be. I know what my skill sets are. I know where I want to go, and I also know what I like and don't like. So I'm just, that's where I'm at right now. So yeah.
What an excellent place to get to in your career, where all of that has come just to realization. So very proud of you, Naeema, especially since we went to City College together. So who is next?
I'll go next.
Go
You hear
for
me
it.
okay?
Yes.
So I started my journey in beauty in general in school. I was that girl in high school. If you couldn't find me, I was in the bathroom doing my makeup or teaching the other girls like, girl, you know, do this. Let me blend that. And it initially started because I had a lot of issues with acne and hyperpigmentation and all these little insecurities that I felt like I just wanted to, it wasn't more of an expressing yourself type of thing, even though I was very big into self-expression. It was more of a corrective thing. And that's also, that's how I end up seeing my journey as a makeup artist. A lot of it is corrective problem solving, to bring out the best in people. So I was heavily into theater, and I initially wanted to be an actress and a singer. And good thing I ended up doing this because I realized I like to sing more than people like to hear me sing. So I was always doing something creative. I was writing songs. I was just writing, and acting and things like that. And when it was time for college, I knew I had to work full time because I was moving to the city, to Manhattan. And I didn't want to be working in a sporting goods store. I was working at Modell's for my entire college career. So I was like, okay, let me go to beauty school and get my certification. Maybe I'll get a job at a Mac counter or something like that. And that'll hold me up until I make it big, you know? So I went to beauty school, and my first experience with a professional artist was with my instructor, Orlando Santiago, who's still, you know, I know him today, and he's a great makeup artist. And I got to go on set with him, and I was like, wow, like, I love this so much, and you making money, like money. So I was like, okay, I think I could see myself doing this. So my entire college career, I was working in Fashion Week and cutting school to go do this, you know, big job and all that stuff. And I loved it. I actually didn't even go to my college graduation because that morning I booked a flight to Costa Rica to do a print job. So that was my career. I also ended up, while I was in college, interning at Essence Magazine as a beauty intern. So it also brought me into that world of, oh, wow, I could talk about beauty too. I love to talk. I love to express myself. You know, I worked at a PR firm, and we represent beauty companies, and I was writing press releases, and I was like, ooh, you know, I'm good at this. So throughout my career, luckily I've gotten a chance to really showcase the different sides of me, and not just as a makeup artist, which is something that I've appreciated, because I do think I just want to express myself. I just want to share myself and share knowledge, and by any means necessary, you know? So one point I went on tour with Lauryn Hill doing makeup for her backup singers, because my friend William Miranda was her makeup artist. So that was a great journey. But then I realized when I got back, yo, I can't do this. I can't do winters in New York City, especially when you're carrying hair stuff, makeup stuff, lighting, and going up 5-floor walk-ups. You know what I'm saying? So by the time you get to that person's apartment, you're sweating. And so, you know, you're doing their makeup on them, and you're like, you know, you're trying not to like breathe too heavy, and you just feel disgusting. And I hated the winters. And since I always kind of saw LA in the horizon, I decided, you know what, let's move to Los Angeles without even visiting. I lived in a hostel with a whole bunch of CSUN college students. I rented a car from the person. I was learning how to drive in Los Angeles. So the good thing is I had the New York hustle in me when I got to Los Angeles. And no matter how different I was, because I came in with natural hair, a little thick, you know, just the keep it real type of girl who people are like, wow, I would always hear, you're so refreshing. And I kind of said, okay, I'm just going to try to hold on to this and find my people that'll help hone who I am, and just like check me, and just so I don't get caught up in the LA drift. So I've been doing this professionally for nearly 14 years now. And throughout my career as a makeup artist, a lot of people have asked me to do hair. And so I got to the point where I was traveling as a trainer teaching licensed hairstylists. And I felt like a fraud, even though they were getting so much from my training. So I decided to go back to school, which was hard because you're like, is this career still going to be here for me when I get back? And I finished my, cosmetology program, which was a great experience. And now I'm actually waiting for my test any minute now for my exam. And by spring of next year, I'll also have my aesthetics and barbering license. Why not do it all? And I'm learning, right? And I'm learning, especially in today's world, you have to have a wide array of skills. And that's what's gotten me into so many jobs, especially now during COVID, where people are like, we want to keep the crews very small. Can you do both? Can you do this? And I come in with my U-Haul truck with all my stuff, and I'm like, let's do this. So yeah, that's been great. I feel like eventually I do want to focus on more delegating and consulting and just doing particular jobs that I want to do, because my body can't run with all this stuff for forever. And yeah, so I've been just working and rebranding, and I realized I kind of got, after 10 years of doing this forever, it seemed like I kind of got bored, and I kind of needed a refresher, and I was in a crossroads. And I realized after talking to a couple people, I'm chasing the wrong things. I'm chasing clients that I don't necessarily want to deal with. I'm chasing clients that want to sit on their phones all day and, look, and, or people that are just like, you see this face on this phone? Forget this. Just put this on my face, draw this face on my face. And that's not what I fell in love with. My main mission was to make women feel good, was to make women, in particular, feel accepted and elevate their vision of themselves so that they could feel more powerful, and they could have more confidence to go about and do what they need to do. And so I rebranded with my executive beauty brand. So I get to work, even though I do still work on sets and celebrities, all that stuff, I feel like my greatest reward is working with high-powered businesswomen, executives who don't want to look like they're trying too hard, who just want to feel like an elevated version of themselves, don't want their makeup to be a distraction. I always say that my makeup is, you're the headliner, my makeup's the opening act. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want people to look at you and be like, wow, she's beautiful. And not, oh, girl, what's that neck? Oh, I love that. I want people to really just see you, and for you to feel confident enough to go about your day. And that's what excites me. So I've just been, enjoying that, and, working on set. And I also do permanent makeup now, which is great. So yeah, the whole beauty expert thing, because I do so much, I do want to just eventually scale down to doing a couple jobs here and there, but also since I do staffing as well across the country for other makeup artists, delegating certain people to certain jobs, and saying, oh, let me send this makeup artist over to you, or this hairstylist, this is the person for what you're looking for. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. I have respected your hustle since we were at City College, and this is a little quick story, and of you turning me down because I was working on some little tiny student film. I was like, hey, would you like to do some makeup? You're like, actually, I'm not entertaining anything that's, unpaid, or like, it's like, that, I respected that. No, seriously.
I had Manhattan bills to pay.
But still, like, that's important, that the way you say no, you're like, actually, I'm very serious about this career, and it's going on right now. I'm not just waiting for school and then I start this career. It's now. So I've always just appreciated that, and that stuck with me. We have obviously been friends since, so it wasn't like, oh, I'm never talking to Jordana again. But no, that's how you command a presence and say, this is my career, and working on student films might be great for some, but that's not where I am at this moment. So appreciate it, proud of you. Now, let's jump on to Lilian, who I have worked with before, but we would love to hear how you got into the industry.
Okay, well, first, it's an honor to be with all of you. I'm listening to everyone's credits and I'm like, okay, maybe I don't belong here. But
Wait
I'll be
for
really
Lilian's
honest.
credits, though.
I'll be really honest, because I think my journey, I teach sometimes an audition technique class at AMDA, and I'm really transparent about, okay, well, here's my life and here's what not to do in your auditioning. So I feel like my experience growing up, I didn't really feel like I had much of a future. Like I went through a lot of depression, a lot of things in my family, and I never like had an idea like in the future of what I wanted to be. So I fell into dancing. Like I started dancing really late, like I was 16 or 17. And then I didn't really start taking class until I was 18. And I was in class with 11-year-olds, like totally not fitting in, which is what I felt like most of my life. And fell into UCLA, World Arts and Cultures and dance. And similarly with my career in TV, choreographing, I was just at the front desk of my dance studio, and a producer for That's So Raven was talking to my studio owner, and she's like, "Oh, Linda, the concert was so great. You definitely should come choreograph." And Linda said, "Well, I thank you, but I think Lilian would be great." And so my first day on set, I just was like, it was really just out of this world for a while. And then since then, I've probably done over 20 shows for Disney, Nickelodeon, Netflix has been the most recent. And it's always been, you know, working with kids. And I did stuff for like Cartoon Network and ABC, but mostly around these kid shows. And I'm realizing too, with my trajectory of my path, it's always been centered around kids. I think because I'm like a big dork and they feel safe around me. And so I think what I would, compared to like all the esteemed guests in this panel, where there is a sense of self-direction, I'm always trying to relate to my kids to know what their dream is and to follow that path. So interestingly enough, after November 2016, prior to that, I was totally like an ostrich, like hid about with the news and what was going on in the world. And I think like art and kids was sort of a safety. And when I would hear about the things in the world that would really upset me, I just kind of, it was just too much. I'm very sensitive. But after what happened, you know, fall of 2016, that's when I became a lot more politicized and aware of what's going on in the world. And then with the pandemic, with my part of the industry completely shutting down, we've had 3 major dance studios shut down in LA alone, also all over the country. And, you know, I know that I will never leave the dance world or choreography, and I've done some casting and some directing. Like one of my concept videos like won a film festival in Switzerland and has been in over 20 film festivals. I've recently decided that I'm like a shark. Like I have to move or I will die. So I know that art will never not be a part of my life and creating, but I also felt really powerless since the pandemic, especially with the George Floyd murder and all the things that are going out there politically. And then Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death like has really affected me. Like I've just been crying since yesterday. So all to say is I joined the journalism program now with a sense of direction in my life. Like this is the first time that I've said, this is what I want. I need to be able to express myself. And it didn't feel like my art was enough. And people in my life had mentored me and said, listen, you can still be an artist and an activist, but I never really felt like I had that voice or that level of credibility. I mean, I think even with my credits or people or whatever I've done in my life, I've never felt like I could be taken seriously. Like even now, as I'm listening to you guys, like my heart is racing and I'm like, who am I to speak along with these people who've done so much and also have a sense of self-direction and purpose. And I know that purpose has been there, but I've just never legitimized it. So I'm really taking this journal, like I'm diving in and I'm totally out of my depth. For a story, I wanted to do a story on Josie Wong, the LA reporter that got arrested last Saturday. And of course I was like, I'm gonna do a story, my first hard news story on her. So like I emailed her, I emailed the board of commissioner, the police, like they would even respond, and an LA law professor, no one responded. And that also hit me hard too, but I realized that anything that we do that's worthwhile is difficult and is supposed to be challenging. So I say all this is, even in my career as a choreographer, I never really committed. And now this time, like I'm really trying to commit in everything that I do. And then finally, I know, Sam, you just wanted like a simple, like, how did you get in the business? So I will say though, I think what kept me going was not this, oh, I'm going to brand myself. I'm going to reach out to producers and casting directors. And I've always been a little bit passive in my role. But the thing that kept me going from job to job was the referrals. I had one producer, he contacted me for a new Disney show. And I'm like, I'm sorry, have we met before? Like, usually I know the producers that I've worked with or the associate producers, et cetera. And he's like, actually, I did accounting for payroll and your name showed up so many times when they said we needed a choreographer. I was like, oh, call her. So I think a person's reputation and how they handle themselves on set is first and foremost the thing. I'm not the best choreographer. I'm not the best dancer. I'm not the most talented filmmaker. And I'm probably not going to be the best journalist, but I do know how to be a person on set. I do know how to relate to every single person at every level. In fact, I was probably more comfortable with the grips and the makeup artists than the actual EPs. Like, that's just my nature. And so what I'm realizing in terms of my career as a choreographer, it wasn't the strategic or tactical understanding of like, how can I move up, or what connects can I make? How can I network to put myself in the best position? It was understanding, and even the choreography wasn't hard at all. It was the managing the energy of myself and seeing like the dynamics of what was going on. And I'll talk more later, but I'll stop now.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, guys. It means a lot.
And you know what? I will say, and I'm not speaking for anyone, but we will find ourselves in situations where we'll pop into a room and hear stories, but everyone is supposed to be here. I will say that no matter what everyone else's resumes are, I found myself in situations where I'm like, that is a big name and I am a fellow to them right now. Okay, all right, step into it and move on. So I appreciate everyone for being here. You were tapped for a reason, best believe. I want to talk about networking just in your own opinion. What does that look like? Because it's seeming like it's who you know, but how do you get to know the people that you need to know to get the next job or any job or get those referrals? So or if networking hasn't been like the real way, feel free to share that. But just
networking is key in this industry. Yeah, it just is. It's because we go from project to project. This is not corporate America 9 to 5. We are as good as our last project or our last credit a lot of times. But also, I think it's important to always be open to expand your creative portfolio. And Jordana hit on that, Victoria, and every single person on this panel has hit on that. You have to be flexible. You can't stay in one box. I'm also a director. And so I directed my first short film, and I called on people that I've been networking with, and everyone said yes, because of that, because of my relationships. And so I think networking is really important, and especially even in this pandemic time, whether it's on social media. I've gotten jobs during this time. I mean, I'm literally hopping off this call and I got to work on some story premises for a new project that I just got hired to write on. And it came from a guy who has been following me on social media. A brother, I've never met him in person, never. But he has watched my career, and because I added animation to my resume, I just wrote on the new DreamWorks animation show called Madagascar. Shameless plug. Madagascar, A Little Wild. Naeema, I don't know how old your child is, but there you go. So it's on Hulu right now. The audience is 4 to 7, right? And so, so he saw the work that I have done, and he saw recently that I had posted that I worked on Madagascar. So he's trying to pull together Black creatives to work on this new animation series that's going to feature a Black family. So the networking is extremely important. Going to functions, going to as many industry functions as you can, mixers and things of that sort. When the writers last year we all rose up and fired our agents, we started doing mixers on our own. And the agencies, they thought it'll never work. And lo and behold, folks were just getting staffed because they had met with other producers. We were getting hired on gigs, right? And just last week, CAA finally signed the agreement that we were holding out for. CAA, UTA, mid-level, the only ones who haven't signed now is William Morris. So the bottom line is, going to those mixers, you may not feel like it on a Wednesday or Thursday night, but going to a little mixer and just letting people see your face and shaking hands, it makes all the difference in the world. So I'll get off my soapbox on that, but I'm big on networking. So
Awesome. Anyone else can hop on in.
Stacey, she got me hyped a little, like because networking is important. And speaking from an editorial point of view, a lot of us are introverts. Okay, I can say I'm balancing extrovert, and I'm in between. So and also editorial post-production, we are notorious to working long hours.
yeah.
Obviously, I don't want to say it's a given. I feel like in editorial we were fighting against that because it's like our health and well-being are at stake when we work such long hours to bring a passion project, to bring a huge feature to light. And I feel like also, editorial, we work so hard to bring a vision to life when something is not working, when you don't have the budget to reshoot. Anyways, I'm going way to the left. So, but network is important as far as the editorial point of view. As Stacey was saying, mixers. For me, I feel like I revel in the one-on-one. Once I meet you at a mixer, I'm automatically emailing you the next day or that night. It was great meeting you. I would love to have lunch. I would love to get a coffee. And it's like, don't be offended if they don't respond, as soon as possible. I was like, I'm quick with the follow-up. I'm like, okay, I'll wait a week. I will follow up with you that week because I want to get to know you. And also it's like, it's not about, I need a job. It's like, no, I love the work that you have done. I want to be in your creative space. I want to know you. So it's like, come from a genuine place, not like, I need to pay bills. I need to get a job. I see that you worked on Star Wars. I want to work on Star Wars too. It's not about that. You can like that I work on Star Wars. That's great. But it's like, get to know me, as well. And also with editors, it's like we have a lot of weekend parties. We have a lot of screenings. So it's great to get to know editors, but also when you're on the job, because I feel like at times producers are hard to reach as far as editorial is concerned. Like you have to be at certain company mixers like Macro or Ray, be in that environment and definitely go in with a game plan. Like, okay, I know who's going to be here. These are my targets. Let me get to them and talk to them, So definitely going with the game plan. When I was starting, and it's not like, I'm at the point in my career where I stopped doing this, but when I was starting, like every event that I went to, like, I'm always like, I'm gonna meet 3-5 people, get their contact, if I, want to network with them and then continue on from there. And I feel like in these pandemic times, when they say in bad times, blessings come, I feel like in these pandemic times, there is so much networking going on. This panel right here, there have been so many Zoom panels, and I know there are other platforms that have festivals, that have webinars, and I feel like because we so-called have time on our hands, even though, we may be working, that people are becoming more accessible, in my opinion. People are willing to get on that video chat, have that virtual coffee, have that virtual lunch, and to be able to go into more in-depth conversation as opposed to meeting at a party, meeting at a mixer. So, and I know that things are definitely going to be different for quite some time. So I'd say, like, definitely take advantage of this time because I feel like people are giving, I don't know what the word is, more grace, more like, yeah, let me talk to you. Like, I see you reaching out. Let's hop on a Zoom call. Let's hop on Messenger. Let's hop on Skype. Any way to get that face-to-face contact, because I feel like as humans, we love interpersonal, contact. We love to see faces. We love to talk. I feel like as creatives, as an editor, I'm visual. I love to see your face. I love to talk to you, and not just on the phone, losing that connection, because it's like you don't see my face. You may hear my tone, but you may not catch my sarcasm. You may not get this reference. So once again, I feel like I'm on a soapbox. I'm going to the left, but networking is way important. And the point now, I feel like, is to take more advantage of it now during this time. Yeah, I'm done.
Absolutely. Between the ask and the art of the follow-up, great points. Anyone else?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of the introvert thing, because like for me, I'm incredibly introverted. So for me, it's like I have to turn it on. I mean, intimate settings like this is fine for me. But when it comes to like being in spaces where there's just like a lot going on and I have to like think really quickly on what to do, the thing is, like, I know networking is important, but I don't think that I was actually taught how to network or what that meant. So, there would be opportunities. I would call myself fortunate enough to having grown up in New York City, to have grown up or be surrounded by an artistic community in New York City through this organization that I used to attend as a child. Because I knew painters, filmmakers. I just was able to be around so many people, but I didn't know how to talk to these people. They were just like there. And so sometimes I would be encouraged to, hey, go, there's so-and-so, go talk to them. I'm like, okay, what do I say to them? Like, how do I talk like this? And like, just go and talk to them. I don't know what that means, and my mind is racing, and I'm going to go up there and be super awkward because I don't know I'm supposed to like ask. I'm a person who doesn't particularly care for small talk. That's something I've had to train myself to do. I'm not an alien, but it is something that, I just didn't understand. And I honestly had to learn myself. So what's helped me realize the power of networking is, I realized it in grad school, because first of all, like going to school, you get those connections, you get to, talk to people, you get to do those things. But also it made me find ways to like put up like a system for myself to like how to reach out to people, how to talk to people, how to get things done. I realized that if you know similar people, you can ask someone to give you an intro, that's helpful, right? Someone told me, just start showing up at events. Maybe you don't talk at first, but just start showing up at events and maybe bring a friend. So I said, okay, I started doing that. I'm part of this really huge, like 500 member collective here in Chicago. And when it first started up is when I first moved out here. And I went to these meetings, but I didn't speak to anyone for the first like 6 months, I don't think. I just kept showing up to all the mixes and events. I would like make small conversation, but like Chicago is a very like new world for me. I didn't know anybody. I don't have like family nearby or anything. I'm basically here myself, so it's like, okay, how do I talk to people? I know what my needs are though, being older, being more than I was in my early 20s, just being like, okay, I know what my needs are. I know I need to show up. I know I need people to know my face, right? And that's what I started working on. And now it's a bit easier for me to like network, but I really hated that word at first because I was like, I don't know what that means. I'm also a person that's not very transactional. So if I'm not interested, as Victoria was saying, like, I don't want to talk to you just because you worked on Star Wars. Everyone keeps seeing me drink out of my Star Wars cup, so just throwing it out there. But I'm not going to talk to you just because you did that. There has to be something interesting about you. And so the networking to me was like, you need something from someone, go talk to them. And I'm not that type of person. Like, I don't want to talk to you if I don't find you interesting. And that's not a slight toward anybody. That's just me as a person. My opinion is not, definitive. It's just me. So it does take like following someone on social media, watching what they do because it's someone I admire. And it's like, it would be cool to work with this person or to talk to them. But I want to make sure that it's actually coming from a place of like, I really want to just talk to you. But then there's also people are busy. So what is your ask? You know, so like there's that. And again, like I'm good with it now, I understand, but I go through this whole like thing in my head that is really quick now, you know, where it's like, okay, 5 minutes, I can figure out how to, you know, talk to somebody. But it is training, and it is something that I feel like, for me at least, wasn't really discussed. And a few other people, like it's not discussed on how to do that. And also, I want to get ahead, right? I want to be successful, but I have like specific moral codes and things that I, you know, just won't do just for the sake of getting ahead or for the sake of being in the same room as somebody, you know. Last year, my film was playing at a festival, and I got to meet one of the producers from Boomerang, the Hudlin brothers, you know, so he is a big fan of the festival. I was introduced to the executive director because someone I knew is friends with the executive director of the festival. She was there at the festival. She brought me over to her. She was talking to one of the Hudlin brothers. And so it was like, oh, so I realized who he was, and I was kind of like, oh, here goes my moment, turn it on, you know? But I was able to because I was like, we are here at a festival. We are here to talk about films. Therefore, Naeema, just talk about your film with them. And it was an easy conversation, you know? And I was like, oh, cool, I get to talk to someone whose work I've admired, you know? Because Boomerang is like one of my favorite romantic comedies. So great, you know? So I can talk to him about that. And then everything's good. And then I walked away feeling accomplished, but also being like, if I was younger, this would have been awful because I was not trained to network. As far as the pandemic has been going, in those ways, I've actually been thriving because I have actually made it my business to reach out to people I've wanted to talk to before, but I have not been able to get coffee with or tea or just like interface with. And these like, there's like standing meetings I have with people I didn't really know before that we just like make time to talk on Zoom for like an hour every couple weeks. Like we just check in, just like as people and as filmmakers. And this has actually led me to get some other opportunities, but that's not what I was going into it for. It just happened like that, you know, organically, and I'm really excited about it. Like now I'm, you know, part of the judging committee for the IDA, the International Documentary Association, for their, you know, short form awards. And I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. And that was because of someone who I was talking to, a filmmaker I was talking to for a while during this pandemic, who threw my name out there. Then I'm getting emails from people who like, oh, I spoke to someone who said you do this. And so now I'm in a position where recently I've been like, I actually don't have time to do that. And that's a completely different feeling for me to like be in demand, you know? But it is because like of networking, but it's been like, for me, an organic conversation with these people who I've been interested in. And I wasn't interested in like getting something directly in return, but just like establishing a connection. So now that I look at networking that way, it's been a lot easier for me. And of course, I think that everyone should find a way to do it, but maybe we should talk about how to do it with other people who may have been like me and just had their, you know, deer in the headlights look whenever they approach the situation. So yeah, that's what I'll say about that.
I mean, from a mentorship perspective, I cut out the, oh, hey, do this. I'm going to introduce you to someone that I know. So you're not going to have a choice. Here you go. Here's the alley-oop. All you have to do is just put it in.
Right.
Just toss it in. Thank you so much. Next person, hop on in about networking. Any tips, tricks, or if that's not been your path and networking is not, please let us know. We want to hear.
So when it comes to networking, I feel like for the longest time, it just seemed like a very blanket word that you can't really grasp to. And if you're not a big people person, or if you're an introvert, I don't seem like an introvert, but I'm more of like extroverted introvert. Like I'm the person, if you I won't approach someone, but as soon as someone approaches me, I'm like, oh gosh, girl, let me tell you, you know, like that opening is really, really hard for me. So I feel like what I've learned is it's kind of like exercise where you know you have to do it, but you want to do it in the most bearable way. And you want to find your style of networking. And for me, like Naeema said, I don't like the transactional thing. I don't like you did this because, and so because of that, I want to talk to you. You have to, for me, I think you have to learn to like people. If you don't, you have to learn to be curious about people if you're not. And also what works for me is, how can I help you? Oh, this is great, but what can I do for you? I'm so curious about how do you do this, but how can I get involved to help or be a part of what you're doing because I believe in it so much. And through that, you know, relationship, then, you know, you let them know what you're up to, and they get sold because they see what kind of person you are and, you know, what a contribution you are to them, and they want to share that with other people. So when it comes to networking, I look at it, the foundation is building relationships in a genuine way. I like people, and the great thing is because I do makeup, I learned to kind of talk to anyone. I can talk to anyone about anything, and you know, I get curious, and I feel like because of that, people are more open because it's less of what does she want from me? It's LA, everyone wants something, you know, for the most part. Or a lot of people, they're just not as, they're very brash with it, you know, or they're not as nuanced with it. So just building relationships with people, being of service, and also realizing what your relationship boundaries are. Like, for example, I know Victoria Page, that's my girl. We've been friends for a long time. She is a friend of mine who happens to be in the industry. And then you're gonna have industry people, like industry friends, you know what I mean? So as long as there's respect in whatever type of relationship that is, and you're building them and you're honing them in the whatever appropriate way that you're comfortable with, I think you can define your version of networking. Because I know when I walk into a room, a lot of times I go out and I'm going out by myself because I can't wait for people. And so you don't want to go, okay, that's fine. And I'll show up, and then I like to find the other lonely person there. Like, you know, if no one approaches me, I'm like, you lonely? I'm lonely. Let's just talk, see what happens. Because this is awkward for the both of us, right? You know, so, you know, just joking with them and just like showing that side of yourself, I feel like it opens people up and it gives them an impression of you that is more genuine, where even if they weren't looking for someone, you know, to network with you, they want to be a part of your journey. So that's what has worked for me.
Can I say that it is, Victoria, you guys have all brought up some good points, and Naeema, I appreciate you being transparent about the fact that, you know, that's not your thing, because that's the case for a lot of people. And not that I've been married for 20 years, but I say sometimes treat it like the dating scene. Like, you know, you have to either bring a wingman or bring woman, someone who can, you know, get that conversation started. And Victoria made a really good point in kind of creating your strategy. Like, if you know you're going to this event, you know, your goal is to get 3 numbers, like David, but you know, to get 3 business cards or 3 contacts, or, you know, and I think you will feel accomplished then, you know, and be selective of the types of events that you're going to. If it's, you know, if it's a film festival, or if it is a mixer after hours or what have you, still be selective. But I think, you know, if it is hard for you to do the networking thing, figure out your strategy before you get there. You know, my goal is to meet 4 people where you scan the room and at least just say your name. I think our names, we all have to say our names and embrace that, and other people will embrace who you are as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, just as a side note, one of my strategies recently, or pre-COVID or pandemic, was to wear something really loud. So like a really bright color, so that it was like someone could talk to me. It just made it easier for me, because then I'm like, I remember just like my grad school orientation, I wore a bright red dress. And so I was like, I don't know any of these people. I don't know who's going to be my cohort. I don't know any of these professors. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to wear a bright red dress. So that's what I did. And everyone remembers that first day, you were the one who came to the orientation with the red dress. And I was like, yes, I did. So that is definitely a coping strategy that I figured out works for me, because it makes people want to talk to me because they see me, like I make them see me, so that even if I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, I don't know what I'm walking into. Sometimes my hair is super big, like I'll like go all out, or there's a color or lipstick, like there's something I make to like really make me stand out, so that someone can talk to me. And then I'm like, this is easy now, I can just talk to you. So that's another little coping strategy I have.
Awesome. Lillian, hop on in.
I love that. I love that. I'm totally stealing it, Naeema. That's so good. I echo a lot of the things that you guys have said. I really resonate with what Naeema and Jordana said. I've had a hard time with networking. I think the word is really charged for someone who's naturally an introvert, doesn't want things to be transactional, feels bad for asking for things. I mean, I have my cousin's cousin whom I grew up with. She's a producer for HBO's Westworld. And she also she was J.J. Abrams' assistant. She worked on Star Trek. And I have never asked her for a thing because I don't want to be that person. But a lot of the advice that I've received as an actor and a dancer is to not use that word networking, and just like what Jordana said, is think of it as building relationships. And it's funny, this morning I was thinking about networking. I told myself, Lillian, it's not necessarily the who you know, it's who you are as a person. And I think that's what's going to help me, especially after listening to all of your advice, is just showing up. Like, I love that you, Naeema, that you forced yourself to go for 6 months. I mean, I think, and I had a guide, someone in my life who said, well, Lily, I had trouble marketing and branding, or even just sharing things on Facebook and Instagram. It was really hard for me to share my work, or this is what I did. Because like in LA, it feels very much like the Instagram doesn't feel so much like a portfolio as a brag sheet. Like, look what I'm doing, and I think it's hard for dancers because they don't naturally have that voice. So there's a lot of like me, and that is also something I have trouble with when I'm networking, is like, well, let me talk about me. And plus, I also deal so much better with one-on-one. Like if we were in a panel with 20 people, I probably would speak once. But when I'm with fewer people, like in a small intimate setting, it's so much easier to be myself and to show up authentically. But I think that's the biggest thing, is if people don't know who you are, then they can't hire you. You could be the most brilliant artist, but if they don't know you exist, it won't matter. It'll be in a vacuum. And then finally, I do want to talk about, I have a friend, a close friend, an ex-husband who complains all the time about not having a mentor. He feels screwed by the universe that he's never had a mentor. And I realized that throughout my life, have attracted mentors, and I realized that I've naturally mentor other people. And I think that kind of reciprocity of, well, I'm giving this out to the world, I'm going to receive it back. I need to put that in my toolbox when it comes to networking. I'm not out there to just get, or to ask, which I'm already uncomfortable doing. It's more of, for me, showing up, how can I be of service? And this is who I am, and what can I do for your project or in this relationship? So I totally think networking is building relationships, period. That's what it is. And it may not be on such a personal level, but it's on a business level. And it's like, this is who I am as an artist. So thanks, guys.
That's incredible. My final question is kind of one of reflection. How does it feel to be kind of the representation that we've all been looking for? So people look up to you. How does that feel? I'm placing that on everyone because you're in spaces where you might be the only woman of color, you might be the only Black woman, the only Filipina. So you might just be the only person that looks like you. How does it feel that people look up to you that way?
I'm gonna start by saying I actually am uncomfortable with it. And it's not so much uncomfortable with the people who may be looking up to me. It like depending on the space, it can just be like I've become like the voice for someone. And I am not that. And I make it very clear that people are diverse. We are not a monolith, like nobody is, you know. So for instance, where I'm working now, and I'm fine with where I'm working now. I work for a platform that's actually about mentorship, which Sammy, I've sent information about, but it's basically like a streaming platform that provides virtual information about the arts to emerging artists. So filmmakers, illustrators, any type of artist. And so there was conversations about we want to make sure we have representation. And so I would get asked about, because this is run by 2 white people, they're asking me, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, oh, that's amazing that you came up with that thing to do for people of color. Just make sure you don't misrepresent yourself in thinking that this organization or this project is, run by people of color, because I'm the only person of color on the, on this team, and I'm not the voice for all people of color. So I keep saying that because my last job situation, I feel like used me as a token, and it was a very toxic place, and I quit, during a pandemic, because I was like, I can't deal with this. Like, oh, it's okay for us to do this because we have Naeema on the team. No, it's not, and I don't want to misrepresent for anybody who's looking at me, saying like, oh, wow, like you've done a really great, really great job here. And, I don't come from a family that's in this industry at all. Like nobody is a professional filmmaker. Like my dad is an elevator mechanic. Like that's great. That's what he wanted to do. And he's very into it. Like he watches documentaries about elevators. Like he's really, into his career, which is great. But I don't really have any other pattern or like anybody I can look up to in my family. So in some ways I'm kind of like navigating this myself with strangers, strangers who will become my friends, but I don't really have any concrete examples of that. So I'm very uncomfortable with it just because how it can be interpreted outside of the spaces. So I'm part of the collective, and I like the collective space because it feels like a safe space, but we're not holding each other to that representation of being like, you're this, so you're this for everybody. And I'm just not. I don't mind being like a mentor. I mean, a couple of days ago, someone reached out to me who I don't really know, but I know of, like, we know the same people. She said, can I talk to you about like distribution stuff? And I said, sure. And we had a whole conversation. I was fine with that, but it was like a safety thing. But like, as far as like outside safe spaces, I don't want to be that like voice or representation, because it feels like a weird power dynamic that I'm just like not comfortable with, of like, I don't know how to explain it other than just like being the person to uphold, I think that it's a racial thing and a gender thing where it's like, look at what this woman did, therefore you should be like this woman. And then it's like, oh, but we don't have the same values or anything like that. So anything that she does or he does now, it looks bad on me because I'm part of that group that, is supposedly I need representation for. I don't know if any of that made sense, but like, and I don't mean to paint it in a negative light, but like, that's where my discomfort is. Like, there has to be safe spaces for that. So.
I think that's valid. We're not looking for just one. We're looking for everyone to just have more. But it always ends up looking like, oh, we put one in there, you have it now, so good to go.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, no,
not the ask.
Right, there's plenty more. Like, there's room for everybody. There's enough work for everybody. So don't like pick the 2 women and go, okay, now we're done. Like, no.
Diversity hires.
Right, exactly. And everyone has a problem with the term like diversity hire. And I also have a problem with the term diversity hire. I like that I'm being looked at right now because of the times, but I'm also a little distrustful of like what people who I don't know are asking me. Like, I'm like, why are you asking me now? Because you knew that I existed before. You know, so what's your reasoning now? Is it because it's like a project that you need a woman on? Like what's your deal here? So I find myself having to do a lot of research and like weighing in, like, do they have a pattern of, you know, working with, you know, and it just becomes very complicated, you know, and no one thinks about this when it comes to white men. I'm sorry. Like they're just like, oh, it's my friend John. Come over here and like work with me. So it's like, you know, why can't that be, you know, for a Black woman, you know, for a Latina? Like, why does it have to be like a statement to fill and then being like, well, my work is done here. Everything's fine because I have this one person, and any problematic thing that I do is fine because so and so is here. So if you have a problem with it, well, we can't be like that because we have so and so. I'm sorry, I have very strong feelings about this. Like, I'm happy to, you know, be looked at for something because I definitely earn it on my merit, but then I wonder about timing and like circumstances. So
Completely valid.
As a writer, may I go?
Please jump in.
Writer, we hear, you know, I have been really blessed that I've been in rooms with predominantly African American writers, which is not a norm. When I was on the Parkers, we were featured in Essence because it was 90% African American and women, right? So that was a big thing, but that was not a norm. I think Mara did it with Girlfriends. I mean, it was not a norm, but you know, I have many colleagues who have been that diversity hire. You can get calls from your reps that say, look, they're looking to fill this spot because they want an African American woman for this space. And I'm like, well, I bring a lot more, but you know, tell me more. But I've also been on the other side where you do have to be that voice and speak up sometimes. And I'm not saying that that's not your case, but for example, I've been on a set where I literally heard two non-Black execs talking about, it was something in a scene, and they were saying, oh, well, no, they need to change this because well, they take great offense to this. And I had to go like this, excuse me? Nope, that's how we get out. That's how we talk. That's not offensive. We should leave that in the script. Sometimes you have to be that person to say, no, I am the authority. But then other times you don't want to just be put into that box. So it's a thin line, you know. But for me, I've always felt like hire me as the whole person. I am a woman. I am an African American woman. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I bring it all to the table. I'm college educated. I do this. I do that. I bring it all to the table. And as African Americans, especially, we have had to learn how to assimilate forever into this mainstream world. We can do it all. So I will never allow myself to be put into this box, you know. So I don't know if that answers your question, Samuel. How does it feel to be looked up to as an African American? But that's how I roll.
Well, yeah, you guys are talking about the experience of all of it, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think, and you know, right now it's so funny because I took a meeting not too long ago, and I said, you know, to these, it was all white men, I said, yeah, I know black women are the new Black, but guess what? We're not a trend. We're not going anywhere. So, you know, and I'll just be really brief. I'm a part of a group called BWB that Lena Wade, Kechi Carroll, and Erica Johnson started. And it's a networking group for Black women in television who write and scripted. And it started off as a small brunch of maybe, you know, 16 women or whatever. And it grew exponentially. And we were featured 2 years ago in Hollywood Reporter, and the headline was basically saying that Black women writers are not unicorns. Here's 26 of them. You know, here's 26 to prove that point. And because that's still a thing that you hear, that, oh, I can't find any Black writers or Black female writers. I was like, what? If it's not me, I can introduce you to 12. So you know, it's still sisters in the struggle. We have to, you know, need to stand strong, pull each other up, but then let them know, like you said, Naeema, we're not a monolith. We all are individual. We bring so much flavor to the gumbo. We bring all kinds of ingredients to the gumbo. So.
Absolutely.
Just look at us like people. You know, I don't know why that's such a difficult concept of just being like, oh, this person is good for what, you know, for this job, instead of, you know, siloing and, oh, we need a Black person. Like, you know, it just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't, and it does a disservice.
I think there's a curiosity, and I don't want to take away from everyone else. I just think they're now, especially with what's going on socially, you know, people do want to know why Black Lives Matter. People do, they want to know about the Black people. So, where maybe there wasn't an interest before, and so maybe, you know, there is this curiosity. I've spoken to writers groups who, you know, maybe there's no Black writers, and in honesty, they want to know how to write for Black characters. And I appreciate that question, but I also let them know, just write the story. If it's a story about a Black woman who's a school teacher, write it. And then, you know, maybe we can help you if we feel like there needs to be some essence added to it, we can do that, but just write it.
Sazon.
Some sauce.
Yes, sazon, some seasonings.
We can do that. Anyway, let me
Yeah, jump on in, anyone?
I think for me, it has become an opportunity that, not an opportunity, but a responsibility that I've learned to embrace. I feel like when work is, when there's not much work going around and you're not living in a space of abundance, or if, you know, you're just got that one job and you're kind of holding on to it, you realize like you are the only Black person here or whatever. It's easy to want to, well, it's harder to stand up for yourself and stand up for your race or your gender the way that you normally do if you were on demand, you know what I mean? So I remember when work was slim for me, I would kind of fall in line. I'd also be very hyper aware that even now, even with work, I'm always hyper aware that, especially in moments of stress, people are watching me to see how I handle it. And I've learned to kind of look at that as an opportunity to show them who I am. And for me, I think of it as, if not me, then who else? Like, I know where my intentions are as an artist. And for other people that are looking up to me, I know that I'm a giver. I know that I want to help people. When I train people, I always tell them, I'm going to teach you everything I know. You know, you have your own vision of beauty, and you're going to execute it the way your eyes see it. But I'm going to teach you all my techniques because I'm not worried that someone's going to steal my job. If someone takes my job, it's not for me, you know? So when I'm in that space and I am in a place where I'm like, okay, well, I'm working, everything's happening, it's easier for me to stand in my truth and say, okay, this isn't right, you know, or I think you should look into this, or just so you know, we're not all the same. And, you know, sometimes I find myself standing up for Black actors when they're afraid to stand up for themselves. Because with me, it's the most intimate relationship I feel like that happens on set. It's when you're in front of someone and they basically strip down in their bare face and they're standing in front of you for an hour. A lot of things happen there. And sometimes, you know, they're vulnerable, but they also need support, but they don't know how to say it. And I've been on set with like Black actors or actresses crying and saying, if this was a white actress, they would have never treated me this way. You know what I mean? So, and I had to go and like, listen, you know, we're noticing these patterns and she's not comfortable. And in a way that doesn't tell someone's business, being able to stand for someone and also have them like, listen, I'm a sister, so I know. So what are we gonna do about this? And that's when they're like, oh gosh, okay, good. Better me tell them than have the actor break down in front of them. You know what I mean? They can make those changes and then get back and figure themselves out. So I just feel like you learn to embrace it when you know that you're coming from a place of that you can contribute to the situation. And sometimes you're willing to put your I wouldn't say reputation, but them liking you on the line in order to make things right. And they might not like you at that moment, but they'll be very happy that you stood up for them before Twitter does. That little, Black Twitter, tells them about themselves. So yeah.
Awesome. Go for it.
So I know that one finger. Coming from an editor's point of view, I started on post-production 10 years ago, and I didn't see hardly is a good word, hardly any Black women editors. All I knew of was Terry Shropshire, Gina Prince Bythewood's editor, primary editor, because Terry does edit for other directors, and also Lilian Benson, who is a documentary editor as well as a scripted TV editor. Those were the only two Black women that I've seen years ago. And when I got into the industry, those were the people who I looked up to. And then when I became an assistant editor in scripted TV, they hardly ever seen any Black assistant editors. And I feel like on a broad scope, people hear about what an editor does. They are not aware of the editorial team that includes the assistant editor. And being an editor and a former assist, we are a vital role as well. So being an assistant editor, a scripted TV assist, and being a Black woman, I have interviews where it's like, oh, I hardly ever seen sisters like you. And I had other Black women who wanted to be in scripted TV reach out. And I didn't feel like it was a heavy weight on my shoulders to teach them all that I know. I just felt like, I feel like this business, I mean, if you be with the right people, but also I feel like it's a part of your character, who you attract and things like that, of paying it forward. Just as people gave me the opportunities to climb up the ladder, I'm all for teaching you. I'm all for talking to you. I've even, like, on my first scripted gig, I became tight with my editor who believed in me to do the job, because there's always a catch-22 in experience, who believed in me to do the job. And she was a Caucasian lady, a white lady. And I even invited, like, other women of color, like, hey, Victoria, I want to get where you are. I'm like, well, come into the cutting room. Let me check with my editor first. as see what's going. But, I feel like with my editors, I had tight relationships, and they're like, yeah, I'm all for mentoring. I'm all for letting people come into the room, see what we do, touch something, see something. So, and now, because I've been a television assistant in features for like 7-8 years, I feel like over the course of recent years, people have been reaching out to me more and saying, Victoria, I know you've been in here. I want to get to where you are. And so I feel no problem in telling people what I know, who I know here, because it's just character. And, like, when you know good people and you know people that just want to pay it forward, connecting the dots here and there. So as a Black woman in this space, I feel like it's natural just to pay it forward when it comes to editorial. And just to, say who I know. And even when I'm in this new position of being an editor for, like, a major TV show, I have no problem telling you, like, okay, this is what I did. This is who I connected with. This is who I gained that relationship with in order to get to where I'm at. Because people, I don't know if it's a character thing with people, I don't know, it kind of rubs me the wrong way when they look at you sideways. How you got here? I'm like, well, how you guys? I was like, well, I worked my butt off to get here. But it's, but it's like if people come from a genuine, part of themselves that say, Victoria, my dream is to be this. And I say, you know what, I've been where you are. This is what I learned. This is what I got. So yeah, I mean, now there's, way more Black women editors. I could drop some names: Daisha Broadway, Insecure. She did Boomerang. She did 20s. Shannon Baker Davis. She did Queen Sugar. She did The Photograph. And oh my gosh, Joy McMillan, the first Black woman that was nominated for an Oscar for Moonlight. I feel like her. Now I haven't even asked her, but I feel like because she's a first Black woman that's been nominated for an Oscar for editing, she had to take on more of the role of Black women just automatically looking up to her and saying, damn, I want to be nominated for an Oscar for a film that I've done. How did you get there? And Joy is the nicest person ever. And I feel like she's taken on that role very, 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 I don't know what the word is, like very gracious. She's just eased into it. And she didn't take it as like, whoa, all these people are coming to me, I don't know what to do. She's like, I've been in this space. I've been where you are. Yeah, this is how it was working with Barry. Yeah, I worked on this film, and then I got, on this film with Maisie Hoy, who did a lot of Tyler Perry movies, and she's willing to share. So I feel like with the people that have been around me are just so willing to share, and so I'm in that same spot. I'm just willing to share because this is how I got here. Let's help you get here because we all gonna make it. We all gonna come, So yeah. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. And, speaking from editor's point of view, yes.
Absolutely beautiful. Lilian?
You guys have made me think a lot. I was thinking, I'm like, how many Filipino choreographers do I know that are in the industry? And I know of people, but I don't know a lot. And I feel like most of the Filipinos in the dance world in LA are in the community world. So they're the ones that compete in dance teams. But in terms of like the industry itself, there aren't that many. And then I was thinking about, okay, when I'm on set or when I audition dancers, how often do I push for an Asian? And I don't, which is, I think because there's this intrinsic, well, we do want diversity, but the first pick is usually African American, followed by Latino, and then white, and then Asians are on the bottom. And I'm too afraid to go against what the EP wants or the director because of scarcity, because anyone would like take my job. So there's that fear of and I'm still struggling with saying my rate is the SAG-AFTRA scale. I mean, there's a show I've worked with now in its 4th season, and I told it took a lot of guts, but I told the producer, is it possible to get the SAG-AFTRA rate? Because they were only paying me $500 a day. And then she checked in with Disney and they're like, oh, we don't have to pay you that because you're not on camera. And I just was like, okay. So I know I struggle with saying, listen, yeah, so that's a whole other conversation. But I remember one time Disney is known for saying we want diversity. So I'm always trying to do that when we hire dancers. And I was in a meeting with the producers and I was showing him my selects and stuff. And he said, well, we don't have to go that diverse. And I just was like, did anyone else hear that? So I have to say, like, I need to do more work. I need to do more work at representing my race. My boyfriend, who's Mexican, he was talking yesterday about how he was really upset. I don't know what exactly happened. He was driving and he said, I'm so angry that I feel like my race is hated. And then he said, but I feel worse for you because I feel like Asians are more invisible than Latinos. And I realized that there is something about, and I'm totally stereotyping my race completely, but that Filipinos are known to be nurses rather than doctors. And then there was a Vox documentary on how nurses were basically exported from the Philippines, like through all these countries. There is something about our culture where we are supposed to be quiet and we're not supposed to speak up. And I think that's also in my nature too. So I totally acknowledge I have to do so much work related to this. So thank you guys for sharing your experiences, because like I really, it's causing me to think. So.
Can I just say I really appreciate your honesty, because there are people listening to this that are going through the same thing, and they haven't really got there yet, or they're trying to figure themselves out. And I feel like it's so great to hear someone be so raw and authentic about what it is that they're going through, because it's a real challenge minorities go through in the workplace. So thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to add that, like, I am all fire and brimstone when talking about like how I feel about stuff, but it is actually very difficult for me to figure out like how to speak up, because I am thinking like, what are the risks, for people who are going to come after me and work for this person? Like, am I going to mess it up for everybody else? Now, I don't want that burden, but that's the reality of it, and I'm constantly thinking about. And even like, being in distribution in the past would actually like shocked me, and it really shouldn't have, but it did. I remember like being in a meeting with salespeople, and we're talking about this very specific title that was mostly minorities in it, or BIPOC people, and they said, we'll put this, we'll sell this like to Walmart. And that is code for a very specific, like, it's not for mainstream, it's like for BIPOC people. Like, they'll go to Walmart. This is the Walmart bin. And I heard that for the first time just a few years ago. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, and everyone just was like, yeah, moving on. And I was like very stressed out about it. I was like, and I didn't say anything. And there's been many times where I didn't say anything. In fact, my last job that I quit, I tried to say something, but I realized that I was talking to a brick wall. But I was like, how do I,
Brick wall behind you.
yeah, I know, I was like, and there's my brick wall. But like, how do I, talk to this person and tell them they can't do that, but also, not mess it up for somebody else, because maybe this situation isn't for me, but we have to survive, right? We have to survive emotionally. We have to survive, salary, like we have to try and survive, and our coping mechanisms are different. And a lot of times, like I've said, I've expressed remorse to other people. Like, I feel like a coward because I didn't speak up as much as I could. I feel like I could have done more. I should have said something in this situation, but it was also a matter of safety. I didn't feel safe speaking up. And that was when I realized I need to leave, because I don't feel safe enough to like, can you do this? Like, or we should not be doing that, or that is a no. I am now, in circumstances where I can do that, and I feel pretty good about it, where it's like, I feel safe enough to speak up, and in one ways it's like, oh, when you feel safe, it's like easy, right? When it's hard, like, how do you do it when it gets hard? And I personally don't think I've mastered that, because usually I go from 0 to 100 when it's like hard, and I'm like yelling at the person, like, how can you be like this? Like, I don't understand why you'd be like this. And that's not helpful for anybody, yeah, and being like the only person in your industry or in your environment, like figuring out how to do this and how to do the work, like I think we're all experiencing this. And like Jordana said, just want to commend you and appreciate the fact that you're like acknowledging that. And that's something that I have to acknowledge as well, that it's been hard for me in the past, and I constantly have to work on it. And I think their circumstances will be different each time, of like, is this the time where I can do this? How do I do this? How do I say this without messing it up for anybody else,
Beautiful. Now, does anyone want to say any last words? I think this is a great point for the episode. We've had a great conversation, but anyone want to say some last things that are just on their spirit? Go for it.
I'm really grateful to be participating in this. And I think listeners who are at different points in their career, like I think it's great that you had a range of people. I learned so much from this. And when I was listening to you guys at the beginning, I was like, okay, what the hell am I gonna say? What can I say? I was like, Lilian, just be honest. Like, you cannot make anything up, and you can't make yourself sound better than you are. And I'm realizing that my struggles have probably helped more people than if I had like done everything perfectly. But I really, like, honestly, genuinely appreciate everything that you guys have said. And I'm going to take it with me. Like, as I move forward, and I'm inspired. So thank you for having me, Sam.
Absolutely. Anyone else? What's said was said. We're good to go.
Thank you for having me. I always say, you know, the word says that our talents would bring us before great men and women. And I consider myself among some great women today. And I'm inspired as well as being given the opportunity to hopefully inspire. And there's room for us all at the top. So let's get it, ladies.
On that note, I am Sammy Ash, Executive Director of the Ash Academy. Thank you guys for joining us once again. Everyone, have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.